Well, that was a movie.
Hello, welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, this is Justin, and we just saw Thor 4, Love and Thunder, which has already been getting kind of beat up by critics and stuff, on Twitter at least, I saw.
I can see that.
But take this with a grain of salt, because I'm not a huge fan of Thor movies in general. In fact, I wouldn't say I've liked any of them. This, I thought, may have been my favorite one, but take that with a grain of salt, because I'm not saying it's a great movie either. How did you feel about it?
I think I still like 3 more, but
Okay.
I haven't seen 3 in a little while, so
Yeah.
it might be a tough comparison. I definitely liked it more than 1 and 2, with 2 being a disaster and 1 being a middle-of-the-road Marvel film for me.
Yeah.
But,
The one thing I liked about the first one was that it kind of took itself seriously, which is obviously not what they do anymore with the character. But it was, I agree, very boring, just very basic. It was just like, okay, any sort of filler MCU movie feels like that. And then the second one was a dumpster fire. It was god awful.
Yeah,
and then the third one I didn't like because I thought it was just overboard on the humor. And I don't like the humor in it, so it's hard to get through. Like, I tried watching it 3 times and I've never finished it. This one, there was still a lot of the humor, but I felt like it was a lot less. I felt like they were doing a lot of different things, so the humor wasn't as much the center focus of it.
I definitely feel like there was less. A little more drama this time, you gotta play up the relationship feels.
Right, because we've got a whole thing with the love, the romance aspect of it, plus then we're trying to show the bad guy's storyline, which unfortunately we didn't really get to spend much time on, which is probably my biggest complaint with this. Was I liked a lot of the things they did with it, but we didn't really get to focus on any of it because it kind of felt like we were just skimming over everything. We'll get in more details with that in spoilers, but for right now I'll just say there was supposed to be emotional moments here, and I just never felt invested in any of it. I'm like, why am I not crying right now? I guess because I don't care.
I definitely felt that just kind of rushing towards their kind of emotional conclusion at the end.
Right.
Kind of knew where they were going and just...
Yeah, I mean, nothing wasn't predictable about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody's feeling the same way about it, but I felt like the room we were in felt that way about it. There's a lot of even triumphant moments. There's a hero moment here or there that normally you get a crowd reaction. The crowd wasn't reacting to shit. It was dead silent. They've always got pauses for jokes and they've got pauses for applause moments and stuff. And they were just left empty. And this is opening night. It's not like this has been out and people are seeing it for their second time or whatever. This is opening night. Just go back and remember seeing Spider-Man on opening night.
Yeah.
And just compare how different this is. Or even just when I saw Doctor Strange on opening night, the crowd was reacting to everything because that's how it normally is in MCU movies. And when you go see them in theaters, the crowd was dead. We got some laughter at some of the jokes and stuff, but I don't know. I felt like this movie wasn't really connecting with me or with the rest of the audience. That's how it felt to me anyway.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. Definitely less engagement from the audiences in a lot of the recent Marvel films I've seen, but I just feel like it's Thor 4, and we've heard a lot of these jokes before. Yeah. And it's kind of the same thing, and I still laughed some. I still chuckled, but yeah, it is pretty much Taika's Thor humor now. Right.
It's also just patented MCU humor, and it could be an MCU fatigue thing. People aren't necessarily saying that this is a bad movie, but it's we've seen them already.
I feel like the crossover aspect really helps these Marvel films. Yeah. Having 2 people that aren't always together, just bounce off each other, it tends to work.
Honestly, frankly, yeah. This movie starts out and he's hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was the best part of the movie, honestly. Yeah. Other than, I would still say, Christian Bale as Gorr easily actually is the best thing about this movie, but there wasn't enough of him. I wanted more of him. By the time you get to the end of the movie, I felt like we were at that halfway point in the movie, and I was like, this can't be ending now, can it? It is?
He needed a few more speeches.
Yeah, I wanted to hear him talk more. And there was stuff in the trailer too that got cut out. There was that shot where he made that really weird face, and I was like, how are they going to work that into a movie and make it not look goofy? That part didn't appear in the movie. Also, he's got the line where he's got the blood oozing from his mouth or whatever, and he goes, "You're not like the other gods I've killed." That line wasn't in the movie. He says things similar to that, but that specific, so it was there was more Christian Bale content out there. We just didn't use it, and I'm mad.
There's always more villain content out there.
There should be. Every time we would show him, and there was like a scene centered around him, and then it would cut back to Thor, you're just like, I don't care. Can we just stay on him? Like, I want to see more of him.
It's not like he made much progress here as a character.
No.
He's pretty journeyed out already. We kind of get where he's going.
Yeah.
The little bit he has to grow more is just him tightening up on responsibilities.
Right.
And it would have been interesting to explore this new character that, you know, probably was only going to be in one film like all the other Thor villains.
Right, and it's like we had other things that we could be focusing on, like Gorr, like Jane's character. Just we could have been exploring this more, but we keep coming back to Thor, who's the least interesting character in the movie.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with the Jane part. There's a scene in the movie towards the end. I won't try to get too deep into spoilers. It's a somewhat supposed to be an emotional scene between her and Thor, and we didn't really see enough of you in this movie, and we haven't seen enough of you recently.
Yeah.
This is like second movie, you've been gone in the whole MCU for a while.
And I don't blame her. It's because Natalie Portman was like, after Thor 2, don't put me in any more of this shit.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But like, the character in the movie now, you've just been gone for so long, and there's no real emotional payoff here.
Right. And the character wasn't well written in the first 2 Thor movies. Nobody really was. She was just kind of like your typical love interest. She had no personality whatsoever. And so coming into this, they obviously were trying to put in effort to write her to have an interesting personality and character. Now, like, oh, she's accomplished all this, she does this, but it was also shallow and basic. It's like, oh, she's a smart girl. She's not the damsel in distress. She's smart. And don't call her Lady Thor, call her Mighty Thor. And if you can't call her that, call her Dr. Thor. And you're like, shut up.
Hey, Dr. Jane Foster.
I know. It was just like, there really was a lot less of that kind of bullshit in this than I was expecting based on how people talked about it. But when it wasn't there, it still was cringy.
It was like, really just that moment.
It was that moment, yeah, really, where it's like, oh my god, we almost made it through the whole movie without doing this shit, and we're doing it. Shut the fuck up.
They really just tossed it in 3 lines, back to back to back.
Yeah. Gorr calls her Lady Thor, and it was so random, too, because he's not calling anybody by name, and then he's like, oh, what, you think you're gonna stop me, Lady Thor? And you're like, shut up. It was so out of character for him to say it. Well, that's what I thought, but then again, what was his character? It was rapidly evolving as well. And I guess you could say it's because he was like possessed by the sword, but it's like the opening scene to the second scene of him, 2 completely different characters. I'm like, what is, like, sure, I could see how this character could become that character, but we didn't get to see it.
Yeah,
it's just he was there.
Yeah, it was really just off-screen evolution. Now he's big main evil villain.
Yeah. Cool villain. I loved everything about him. But I wanted more. More. I wanted so much more from this. But like I said, it didn't really offend me in any way. Like, there was nothing wrong with it. And it had a cool villain, so even though he was underutilized, that's why I feel like I come away with this being my favorite Thor movie. But I can totally understand if it's not yours or anybody else's, because if the humor in the third one doesn't piss you off like it annoys the crap out of me, then I could see why people would like that movie more. It's a better made movie. It is. It's just I don't like the humor. And then if you still like the first Thor movie the best, I know some people that still say that. Once again, I disagree, but I understand why, because it's a very much more typical late 2000s, early 2010s style flavor of superhero movie, which completely over personally, but if that's what you like, sure, I get it. But yeah, for me, this wasn't anything special, but I mean, none of the Thor movies have been to me, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've never really thought they were much special. No, this was fine. This hit all the right Marvel beats. It's just the most interesting things about this movie should have been Jane and the villain, and they weren't. Yeah,
we're gonna focus on Thor and these stupid throwaway jokes and lines and stuff. Like the whole goat thing. Like, the screaming goat is like a decade-old meme at this point. I remember, like, what was that, 2018, when that animated Grinch movie came out, and they had a screaming goat meme in that, and I was like, this is such an old meme. Here we are, 4 years later. It's a dead meme, y'all.
Listen, man, it's not dead. Media will keep resurrecting it forever, right? You give it another 4 years, It'll probably be in Batman or something. I don't know.
God, I hope so.
Joker sent some Joker eyes screaming goats at him. I can see it, man.
Taika Waititi is one of my favorite directors working today. I love his directing and his writing. Like, Jojo Rabbit is one of the best movies I've ever seen. What We Do in the Shadows is fantastic. Right. How does he write such brilliant comedy and then turn around and then write these movies? I don't get it. I do not understand. Like, what? Like, like how?
Yeah. I feel like with the third one, because it was his first Thor film, all that humor for me was so new to me for Taika Thor humor. Right? It was all new, it was all fresh, it all worked. This movie is the same humor, but less of it.
Yeah, and it's not completely on brand just Taika humor. It's very much like
Taika Thor humor.
MCU. Like, he is copying, he's assimilating into the MCU brand of humor, which it's like we've been watching for 14 years now. Every movie we say the same jokes. Like, somebody was pointing out about how in like Doctor Strange they're like making fun of like 3 different people's names. Every MCU movie they're like, what's your name? Your name's what? That's a dumb name. It's like, shut up. Shut up. And so, like, yeah, Taika is a little bit more creative with these jokes, but they're still the same jokes in every movie. Yeah. And so I think why it's getting worse reviews isn't that it's necessarily a bad MCU movie, because I think, once again, this is a middle-of-the-road MCU movie. It's not that bad, it's not great, it's fine, but people are getting sick of the MCU. It's happening.
Yeah, certain films. They still love the big Avengers crossover because they feel like they have a bit more stakes. Right. The Spider-Man films, the last one was pretty great. So, I mean, they were all pretty good.
Yeah, everybody enjoyed No Way Home, for sure.
They still have their hits, but these ones that just stick to the Marvel script purely, exactly beat for beat, we've seen it. We're going to see it again.
But then again,
and I'm going to pay for it again. But
people were really mad at Doctor Strange. I thought Doctor Strange was the best thing Marvel had done in years.
I thought it was really good. I think they were just mad because it was Wanda being so, it's... I like where they went with her character. It's not where I think people would have expected her character to go.
That's exactly where I expected it to go.
I mean, when I saw after the Vision thing, I expect. But before that, I don't think they would have.
I guess I'd have to just give it like a 6. Like, it's not a bad movie, but I really won't care to ever rewatch it, I don't think.
I guess I'll give it a 7. My scaling is not... It's all over the place. I'm just whatever's in the moment. But
just feeling it out.
Yeah, not be able to do my full rankings off the top of my head, but I probably have it towards the top of my pack, or like the middle of Marvel films.
Do you have anything before we get into spoilers? I feel like I'm ready to get into spoilers.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we're going to get into spoilers. So, if you don't want anything spoiled, please just click away now. But please remember to like, share, and if you're new here, subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye. So, spoilers. The whole time when they were like, oh, if Gorr gets to this place, he can get a wish. And they were like, well, he's a god killer. You know what he's going to wish for? I'm like, his daughter back? Why wouldn't that be what he would wish for? Like, what? What? And then when Thor mentions it, it's like Gorr's like, ah, shit, I didn't think of that. That's a really good fucking idea.
See, it makes sense that he wishes for her. I really thought it made sense that like everyone feared that. So it's just like he's like, I don't want to. My daughter's the lucky one to have died and not have to grow up in this cruel world.
Well, then why don't... How limited is his wish? Because he could have wished, like, oh, I wish that none of the bad things that happened to us. Or he could wish, like, oh, I wish all of the gods are nicer. Or he could have wished, like, just to scale it back and be as simple as here, but just go one step further than he did. Why didn't he wish that his daughter was alive and he wasn't dying?
Okay, so... answer all of those.
What?
Yes. But okay, so yeah, I'm guessing if he could kill all the gods, he could definitely make them nicer. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna toss in that last one is 2 wishes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how's the wording work? Like, I wish everybody in my family that is dead or dying was healthy. Like
yeah, that could work.
You're included in your family, so is your...
But dead or no. Yeah,
dead or dying. Yeah,
I guess so.
But keep it
the whole family.
Immediate family. Just say immediate family. You don't want, like, your great-great-great-great-grandfather like, I'm here again, and now I'm dead.
You gotta stay away from those genie wishes, man.
Yeah. So, but I mean, you're not limited by death and love. Like, you can do anything with that, apparently, with the Mr.
No, it definitely seemed like it was supposed to be a completely all-powerful wish.
All-encompassing, yeah.
That apparently Thor had the key to the whole time?
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta rewatch.
Yeah, literally, it was like, the only way you can get there is by using the thing that has been transporting you people everywhere. You didn't think to look for him? Like... A lot of people in these movies not thinking, man.
We're gonna watch Endgame, because I know, like, the axe was supposed to be, like, some legendary weapon, but I didn't think it was supposed to be like this.
Right. There was a lot of things. I forget most of them right now, but throughout this movie, they kept just saying things, and I was like, what? Are we not gonna explain that? Like,
it's
what?
The key to eternity that Thor has. And it's so funny that he has the key to eternity. I just gotta watch that, rewatch that movie. He has the key to eternity, and the Asgardians kind of shit on by all the gods. They're kind of like pretty low-level gods, apparently.
Speaking of all the other gods, they're like, we need to go to this place. What I forget what it was called. Omnipotent City or something.
Yeah.
So we can go talk to the rest of the gods and ask for their help. So then they get there and they're like, all right, we need to put on disguises. Why? Why do they need...
That's a fair point.
And then once they got found out, they're like, all right, we're taking off our disguises. Can you help us? It's like, why didn't we just do this from the jump? Like,
I guess maybe the other three weren't allowed because they were technically not gods. They didn't really explain that part, so it's just speculation completely. But that's about the only thing that makes sense to me.
So like, why are we wearing disguises? I don't get it. Like, what?
Well, if
also, by the way, disguises, another terrible MCU joke that gets told all the time is the disguise bit. We're like, oh, I'm great at disguises. Throws on the thing. Look, it's like, shut up. I get it.
Listen, if we didn't have a disguise, we couldn't have the big reveal moment where Thor's clothes get blown away and all the gods drop down in fucking horniness.
Yeah, can somebody explain to me why everybody fainted? Like,
it's Thor.
Like,
you know what? Screw it. It's Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, okay, he's hot. You're gods.
And?
You seen shit, man. Like,
Aphrodite ain't got nothing on him.
I don't, like, they've seen Hercules before.
Hercules clearly had nothing.
Nothing made sense, man. Nothing. The whole reason, like, now Jane, she's Thor now, and she's using the hammer, which is keeping her alive, but apparently every time she uses the hammer, it's killing her because it's drawing from her life force. Yeah, but it's the thing giving her power.
That's kind of a weird way to explain that one.
What?
It's blocking her body's ability to fight the cancer.
Because it's drawing from her life force. Like, it's like every time you use it, it draws power from you. What? No.
It really would have just been much better if they were just like, oh, she's too far gone. Even our Asgardian technology can't cure
this whole
stage
movie,
4 cancer at this level.
The less you thought about it, the more it just worked.
Yeah.
And I kept having to tell myself, stop thinking. Stop it. Just don't, because it don't make sense. Anytime there's a question raised, there was never a good answer. Speaking of great questions, why the hell in New Asgard do they have a Thanos-themed ice cream shop? Did you catch that shit?
Yeah.
Like, that's like going to Israel and there's like a Hitler-themed bar. What the fuck?
That was wild.
And that's where, like, it bothers me that, like, we prioritize jokes in the MCU over actual storytelling. Like,
hey, he only killed half their people. It's fine.
Like, what the fuck were you thinking, Taika?
Just genocide.
Or Disney, or whoever's idea that was. That's so dumb. That's so dumb. Like, what? Can't get over it. What? You walk into the bar, you have to heil every time you order a drink.
You got snap every time. We get some service right here. I'll snap you.
What can I get for you? I'll be back in a snap. God, fuck. So dumb.
It's actually awful.
What the hell? Like, you just stop and think about it for 1 second. Also, I love how they were like doing tongue-in-cheek product placement, but it's like, it's still product placement. You still did the McDonald's. You still did the Old Spice. You still did that shit. You're just like, haha, aren't we funny? Product. It's like, yeah, it's still product placement. You assholes. You're getting paid for this.
I at least like the Old Spice one.
Oh, it's bad. Also, I repeat my complaint from the Batman. More people need to die in these movies, man. When Valkyrie got stabbed, I was like, cool, all right, we're killing her off. I
never thought for a second she was dying. Not for a single second.
But it's like, we should have, though. We should have. And then...
I just think there's going to be more Thor films, and it's Tessa Thompson.
So going back to Christian Bale, phenomenal performance. I loved him. Do find it funny, though, that Christian Bale is willing to put on 100 pounds of weight, take off 80 pounds of weight, or whatever for a role, but he won't shave his head. He was wearing a bald cap. Did you notice? It was a bald cap. Fucking bald cap. I'm like, dude, you'll weigh like 80 pounds for a movie, but shaving your head was too much?
Hey,
anyway.
You never know when it's not going to grow back in its time.
I don't want to fuck up my hairline. Yeah. The opening scene of this movie, which may have been the best thing about the movie, was one of the better things about the movie, is you get to see briefly, unfortunately, the origin story of Gorr. Him and his daughter wandering in the wilderness, dying of thirst. And then eventually she does die, and then he stumbles across the gods, and the gods all kind of laugh at him and say, fuck you, there's no afterlife, you're just fucked, and I'll just get new followers, who cares? And so then he's chosen by the Ring of Doom, the sword of whatever, and kills the gods with it, which was when it started getting like too fast-paced, because like the opening scene was like, it's good, and then started getting faster and faster as it was getting near the end. I was like, hold on. And then, like we were saying, immediately, next time you see him, he's just the most evil thing in the world. I'm like, yeah. I thought he was doing this out of, like, revenge. And I guess part of it is, like, he's being possessed by this evil sword or whatever. But it's like, he went from, like, oh, I want revenge to, I just want to kill for the sake of killing. Like, I hate gods and I just want to kill them. Which is why it's, like, that's confusing when it's, like, when you get to the point of wanting and getting this wish for whatever you want, he would have rather killed than get his daughter back. Until Thor stopped him and said, hey, what about that? That's an idea. And it's like, that doesn't make sense to me. We don't really get much character development with him. So, frankly, he doesn't really talk much at all. And so the few times that he does talk, you're just like holding on to every word. You're like, I want more of this character. So you've got the scene where he creeps out the kids, which was a really cool scene. Him in the cage, just appearing back there. I love that. And then he talks briefly to Thor when they're fighting, which once again was really annoying, where he's like, call the hammer. It's just really cool, like he's really cool, really creepy, call the hammer. He's like, I'll call the hammer when you call the dentist. It's like, shut the fuck up. There's a cool scene and you're ruining it. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, but that's Thor. That's never
Marvel. Change. And then like he doesn't really talk again after that whole fight until like the end of the movie, which is then when he's like, oh shit, I should make a wish about that instead. Also, by the way, Lady Thor. So it's just like, I needed more from him. Like, he was so badass and he was so cool. He sounded cool. He looked cool. The acting's great. And that was
cool.
Right. And that was a scene where he's dying, but his daughter's back, where I was like, 9 out of 10 times this scene in a movie would make me like tear up or cry or something. So the fact that I'm not means that they fucked up somewhere.
Yeah. We just didn't get to see any of his journey. It's, he said, his daughter dies, he kills the first gods, and next time you see him, he's killed supposedly, a ton of gods throughout the world. He's completely in charge of his powers now. And I know they kind of slightly mentioned the whole sword corrupting thing, but like they don't play up the corruption. It's not a struggle for him at all. No. He doesn't really reminisce on his daughter at all, outside of to say that he had a kid. Outside with the kids. Right. That was a great point. Yeah. Because he gets to actually talk about his daughter. He just needed that more of that. Is to keep saying, I'm doing this for my daughter. I'm doing this because they killed her.
Literally, every time he talked, you're like, oh, I love that. And then he just didn't fucking talk.
Yeah. And he has the one line where he says, I don't want to bring her back into this. She's lucky one because she's dead. Yeah. And she doesn't have to grow up in this evil world. And that makes sense as a reason you want to do the death wish over that. But like, say that a bit more then.
Yeah, like play into it. Build it up. Make it develop into something that actually makes sense. Instead, it's just like throwaway lines here or there. And it's a shame, because it's like, he was so freaking cool, but you just didn't do anything with him.
No.
And like, so when he's laying there dying and is like, protect my daughter, and you're like, I don't care. Sorry. Same thing once again with Jane dying, and you're like, oh shit, she died. Wow.
Oh gosh, yeah. The Jane thing is weird because what I was saying before, we didn't spend really much time with Jane. And the scene I was avoiding before was she's in the hospital bed talking with Thor. They just told Thor that her use of the power is stopping her from being able to heal the cancer with the Asgardian whatever. You know, before she was a scientist, now she's like the preeminent scientist of the world. It's this choice between going back to her life as the world's preeminent scientist or being Thor.
Right.
And it's supposed to feel like some big struggle for her.
Right, but it didn't. I think the decision was more or less supposed to boil down to is like the lives of the many versus the lives of the few type thing that you always do in every superhero movie where it's like, if she is Thor now, it will kill her. But if she isn't Thor, then these kids are more likely to die. And the bizarre thing is she chooses to stay in the hospital. And then she changes her mind and goes, but it's like, why would anybody ever choose that? It's like, yeah, I know I'm gonna die, probably, but you don't know for a fact you're gonna die, and I have a chance to go help people. And then she's like, yeah, you're right, I'll stay here. I'm like, what?
Let's talk about Jane's death. Yes.
What is there to talk about?
Jane died. No, I want to continue our conversation we were having at the end of that movie. All right, that was great. All right, so earlier in the movie, Thor
they go out of their way to say, you don't go to Valhalla unless you die fighting.
Die during the battle. You get killed during the battle. And it makes sense. It's always been my idea of Valhalla. I've seen enough Viking media in my time to always believe that that's my theory of Valhalla. And they make a joke where Thor gets called to save Lady Sif. She's asking him to leave her so she can go to Valhalla because she's bleeding out. She's lost an arm. She's bleeding out. And he says, well, no, the battle's already ended. You're still alive, you're just bleeding out now. If you die now, you don't go to Valhalla. You have to die in the battle.
Which doesn't make sense, if you ask me.
It's fine with me. It kind of feels like the whole Viking belief. I don't know if that's exactly what it was.
She's like literally laying on the battlefield dying from fighting.
Hey, the battle was over.
Okay.
But if that's what they're going to do, then I think they should just stick to that. That's fine.
They set up that rule.
That's fine.
That is the rule. So, okay.
Jane, she fights in the final battle. She throws the hammer to break Gorr's sword, the sword that's able to kill the gods.
Then did some random mumbo jumbo with it, like
the
hammer and the sword combined, and then the sword started detaching itself. So then she went "Pah!" and then something happened.
Yeah,
and then the sword disintegrated.
Yeah, that was kind of confusing because like they had set up that like now that she has the hammer's still broken, but it can be formed back together for her to use, and then she can split it apart for an attack and then bring it back together. So I got bringing it back together. I did not get what it took in a piece of the sword, and then
the sword was trying to leave, and like I said, she just went like "Whoa," with it, like "Whoa," and then lightning struck, and then the sword disintegrated. I was like,
so that section of battle ends, right?
We have this conversation between Thor and Gorr, anyway, about I'm gonna wish for this, and like you should wish for that. You should choose love, and like, why would I choose love? Why would I do that? Because it only fucking makes sense to do that. Oh, you're right. Okay. Now I'm gonna go talk to her. So this is time's passing.
No, there's clearly no more fighting, and he does this whole wish thing. The whole ending of the movie happens.
He dies.
Yeah. First post-credit scene, whatever. Second post-credit scene, it's Jane. She stands up. She's got clothes on. For a second there, I think they're actually bringing her back to life. He caught what it really was. She's in Valhalla. Yeah. She supposedly died in battle, even though, I mean, she wasn't injured from the battle that she died. She just lost the hammer, and then she seemingly died from her cancer.
Right. And so my argument then, and I'll repeat it now, is that the only reason she did die, though, is because she chose to go to battle. So it's kind of like a loophole that you could kind of make.
I guess.
If you're going by the rules they set up, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because then he's just talking shit to Sif. Because then she would, if she just laid there, she would have just died.
Yeah.
Because she definitely would have just bled out.
Yeah.
I mean,
it doesn't make sense.
No. I wouldn't have made the joke, or I would have, fixed it somehow. I don't know. But it annoyed me. It made me walk away a little more annoyed.
Yeah.
And I don't even think we're gonna see her again. But dang, you literally spent you had that scene.
Yeah.
Made that joke.
Something. I don't know, man. this movie could have used a rewrite or two.
I guess I never should have expected Zeus to be dead either.
Yeah, the fact that he wasn't, though, was really... Nobody dies. Nobody dies.
No, gods don't die unless you're killed by the God Slayer or whatever it is.
Why does nobody die?
It's just Gorr. And I guess Jane. Yeah, I guess Jane is technically dead.
But she had a happy death.
Yeah,
That's the difference.
And like, if she had been stabbed by the God Slayer and died in his arms, or died right, I guess dying in his arms, I don't know if that counts either, but screw it. I would have accepted that.
No.
I guess she's in Valhalla, and, Heimdall's there, that's cool. He died in battle, I remember that.
Oh, by the way, his son was not a good actor. I didn't enjoy anything with those kids at all.
Yeah, that felt like Marvel was just like... Yeah, Taika, we need you to do something with these kids. And Taika can make it, funny, whatever, but...
Yeah.
Taika, we need you to... These kids need to be involved in some big battle, Taika.
Yeah, and so they all are given the power of Thor by Thor to fight, and so
Which
they're
is a
just...
wild thought, because can he just give his powers to people?
Why doesn't he do that all the time?
Exactly. What the hell? Is it just because these are Asgardian children? I don't know if that's a Thor thing in the comics.
Asgardian children.
They established that.
And so then, like, they've just got these little random pieces of whatever that are now magical because he gave them the power of thunder.
They just picked up some random shit from the floor.
And so there's this one girl with, like, this little cutesy dress on, and she's, like, cutting somebody in half. And that was another moment where I was like, audiences would normally have reacted to that, but the audience was, like, dead silent.
No. I don't think audiences would react to that. I think children being taken on a school field trip from like summer camp or some shit would have.
But I thought they would have like laughed at it, but nobody was laughing. Nobody was laughing.
I don't know about that. This was a wow, Marvel. Yeah. You really went there?
If it was in like Suicide Squad or Deadpool, it would have fit that sense of humor more.
It would have been. It would have a little bit more. They're harder. They're like more hardline comedies than Thor is, and now Thor is totally the comedy series of. Like, it's Ant-Man level of comedy. Yeah, I mean, Guardians always was, though.
Yeah.
Thor wasn't at first. Definitely wasn't in the second.
Right.
Became that when Taika took over. And I'm fine with it becoming that because, I mean, even without Taika, they kind of turned Thor into, like, the punchline.
He's a joke, which is a shame. Where it's like, and Hulk, too, by the way, have both been dicked over by MCU because they chose to make them punching bags and jokes rather than talk about their in-depth storylines. And, like, the whole arc of Thor is so sad. Like, he goes through so much shit, loses everything. He loses his entire family. He loses
half his people.
Half of his people. He loses like everything, like the love of his life, everything, and they turn it into a series of fat jokes.
Yeah.
Also, he feels personally responsible for not killing Thanos, and so therefore feels responsible for half of the world dying. So like he's got a lot of shit, and they turn it into a fucking joke. Like everything with him is a fucking joke, and it's a shame. And same thing with like Hulk, where it's like they turn it into like a fucking, instead of a fat joke, it's like a erectile dysfunction joke because now he can't get angry or whatever the fuck whole thing. It's like, can't we just like...
Yeah, he really could use his own movies to explore other things than just him having trouble with his powers and then gaining mastery over his powers.
I haven't read a lot of Marvel comics, but what I did read, one of my favorite comic series I read was the Gladiator series, where Hulk was a gladiator on that planet, and they make it a couple of scenes in Thor. Instead of its own, it should have been a fucking movie on its own.
Yeah, was it like Planet Hulk or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome.
I remember hearing about that. I never read it, but yeah.
Loved it.
Heard good things.
And then they just made it a couple of scenes in a Thor movie. Great. Awesome. Because Thor's so much cooler than Hulk.
I never really got why Hulk wouldn't get his own movies anymore.
Because they both bombed ass.
This wasn't even Mark Ruffalo. You want to try again? Just one more time.
They don't want to try again. All right. That's all we had to say about that. So we're going to sign off for now. But please remember to like, share, and if you're new here, subscribe. Thanks. Bye. Nice. That was almost English.